But I wasn't late, everybody be waiting for me. Now everyone gets to applaud when the next person gets here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the time now is 3:32, and I'm going to call to order the Monday, September 19th, 2022 Personnel and Compensation Committee meeting to order. Please note this meeting is being transmitted live via video stream. The public can find a link to this video stream by visiting the Orange County website, www.orangecounty.gov.com, clicking on the tab for the legislature and locating the meeting on the calendar. Please silence your cell phones, tablets, and other electronic devices. Thank you. Be mindful that the microphones here in the statutory committee room are hypersensitive and pick up any little noise. Kelly, can we have attendance, please?
Ben,
Here.
Masha,
Here.
Fagion, Menuda,
Here.
Luan, O'Donnell,
Here.
Paduk, Sassy.
Here.
Five present, three absent.
Okay, absent are Minority Leader Paduk, Legislator Kevin Darian Lujan, and Majority Leader Fagion. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to rise to the pledge of the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, we have a quorum, right, Kelly? We're good? Very good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first on the agenda is our county executive, Stephen Newhouse, a resolution confirming the appointment by the county executive of Alicia Pointer, DO MPH FAAP, as Orange County Commissioner of Health. Legislative request number 236. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Russia and Menuda. Very good. Okay. And we have Deputy County Executive Harry Poor here. Mr. Poor, will you come on up, please, with Dr. Pointer.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure today to introduce you to the new Commissioner of Health for Orange County, Dr. Alicia Pointer. You have copies of her resume. We did a search and we were lucky to find her. She already has been approved by the state government, state health department. We have a letter to that effect. And I guess the best thing to do is just to let you interview her and answer any questions that you may have. Sure.
Okay.
Can you pass that letter around?
Sure.
Is that what you wanted? Do you have a question for Dr. Pointer? Okay, you wanted the letter. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Legislator Patton, go ahead.
Welcome.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Okay, a pet peeve of mine. Do you answer questions directly? Our last commissioner would give you 20 minutes of statistics, which were unbelievable in depth, but never answer our questions.
Yes, I try to answer questions directly. I have a lot of experience working with patients and patient families. So I find that plain, simple talk is usually the most effective.
Excellent. Thank you. Got my vote.
Okay. Anyone else? I know that Dr. Pointer has been vetted by the county executive and his staff, so I'm confident that Dr. Pointer will do a great job for us. Well,
Thank you.
Welcome. You didn't see me with your predecessor on any of the meetings, have you?
No.
That's why you're still here.
Take a look at the videos. That's just-
I wanted all of the meetings, of course. but-
Chair Benelli had a question or comment for Dr. Pointer?
First of all, Dr. Pointer, welcome. We look
Thank
forward
you.
to working with you. What do you feel will be, the little bit that you know, will be your biggest challenge with the new position that you will be?
That's a great question. I think we're seeing more and more in this county and probably nationally that we're facing new problems every day that seem unexpected. So obviously we just came off of COVID and now we're seeing new infectious diseases in our community. I think learning to expect the unexpected will be a challenge. I think planning for public health crises while still maintaining the everyday public health functions that we need to maintain. We still want people to continue to have good relationships with their healthcare providers, have healthy behaviors. while we're addressing these crises. So I think that balance will probably be the biggest challenge.
Thank you very much. And we will do everything we can to help you with that challenge.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so in the olden days, doctors used to be MDs. Now there's all kinds of different ones. What's a DO?
So there are two kinds of medical schools. There are what we call allopathic schools. That's what you know as an MD. And osteopathic schools. So that's the kind of school that I went to. That's a DO. So both teach basically the same medicine, and graduates from both schools have the same responsibilities and abilities as physicians. We do similar testing. We do the same residencies. I'm part of the same board of pediatrics. One of the differences is that historically, osteopathic schools, DO schools, tended to look more at a holistic view of health, a more kind of anatomical view of health, the way everything's connected. I think today those differences are smaller because I think all medical schools are trying to look at the whole person and realize that the body is very interconnected. Even things like our residencies and our testing that used to be different are becoming much more similar. Like I said, I went to the same residency as MDs went to. So I think those differences are smaller today, but that was the main focus in the past.
Thank you for your direct answer.
So, have you had any experience? I know your pediatric is your background, but with the elder population, such as Valley View Nursing Home, anything with nursing homes?
I have not. My experience has been primarily pediatric. And I mean, I've got my MPH. So in that regard, you know, I had some training in dealing with public health across the spectrum, but I don't have personal experience with the elderly, no.
So I just read in Valley View's update that Crystal One is not renewing their license. Right, so I'm sure you're gonna have some input into whether new people we hire there.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I have good people around me that I can trust to fill me in on issues like that I don't have as much public experience on.
Doctor hasn't had the opportunity to meet our other counterparts in the county government, but that'll come. And we have a very strong home for elderly here in the county as well. So we, she hasn't met Lawrence yet.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So we're on. Not bad.
4-year experience during the pandemic.
Personally or professionally?
Professional.
So I was chief of pediatrics at that time at our FQHC at Cornerstone Family Healthcare. I would say very early on, you know, we had a lot of challenges. We had our medical students, for example, that we had to make sure we're still getting an education, but that we were able to protect by having them work remotely. We had schools calling us. Obviously, we had parents who were very concerned. Even our staff was worried about themselves and their own children. You know, most of them live in the community and they all work in the community. And so I would say early on, it was a challenge, but I worked with some really amazing people who continued for the most part to show up every day and do what we needed to do. I think we learned to be a little bit more flexible where we could. At the same time, I was also starting our foster care health program at Cornerstone. It had just begun, and so we were communicating with mental health and social services and trying to work out things like testing and caseworker visits and visitation. So I think all of that was challenging, but I would say, you know, we learned to be more flexible, and I think some of those lessons are lessons that continue to help us be stronger afterward. Things like, you know, how to make sure that families got the food that they needed and had more food security, making sure that there were relationships between the health center, social services, caseworkers, and foster families. I think all of those things were strengthened, but of course, in the beginning, it was difficult.
Thank you.
So did you have any experience with the lab over at Cornerstone? Do you have a lab over there?
We do have a lab over there.
Did you have any experience with the lab? Setting it up, equipment, anything like that?
So we already had a lab at Cornerstone. So you mean for like COVID testing? Is that what you're asking about
No,
specifically?
any type of testing. The reason I'm asking is the county execs proposed a new building for the health department, of which the lab will be probably the most critical component to that. And also the medical examiner is getting a new building. As much as I'm fighting to cut down the cost of it, went from 5 million to 23 million. You're starting at 23 million, so in a couple of years, you'll probably be 45 or 50, the way things are going. But what I'm looking at is to have a lab for both the medical examiner and the health department. So that's where
Okay,
I'm at. So that's something I'd like you to look into
yeah,
and see what kind of lab you're gonna need with the new building for your department. But also I'd like to get you involved with the medical examiner's building and look at the lab there to see if we can save probably millions of dollars by combining the labs. And with all the money we're spending, we should be able to have probably the best lab for a county in the state. That's what I'm looking to do. We're gonna spend this money, let's spend it properly and correctly. And that's something that's gonna come across your plate pretty quickly.
so I would say, like I said, we were lucky enough to have our own lab at Cornerstone. I wasn't part of developing that lab. It was there before I started working there. My interactions with them recently were primarily around new testing, so things like testing for COVID or expanding respiratory panels. We did a lot around, testing for measles back when that was an issue a few years ago. So I would say more about developing new testing methods, but I don't have experience with starting a lab from scratch. But like I said, I'm looking forward to talking to the people who do have that experience and learning from them.
And the last question, Chairman, thanks. So, big thing in the next 20 years is gonna be artificial intelligence with whatever profession you're in. You have any experience with that over at Cornerstone?
I would say not artificial intelligence necessarily, but certainly I think things are moving in that way as far as algorithms that don't necessarily have people every step of the way that are helping to determine either diagnosis or sometimes treatment. So I would say in those regards, especially in terms of safety and standardizing, I would say we've used more kind of computer-based or learning software in medicine in the past, certainly in the past 5 years. And that's been primarily my experience.
Right.
So more with decision-making and decision-making algorithms as opposed to artificial intelligence per se.
And you say that's gonna get bigger and better as the future.
I think so. I think we have to be aware that it's coming and make sure that we create it in a way that's as equitable as possible.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, I'll ask for a vote here. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Dr. Pointer, welcome.
Thank
Best of
you.
luck.
I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You have the floor.
Our buildings will be state of the art.
Oh, I'll make sure of that. The amount of money you're spending, are you kidding me?
I've been making sure of
Yeah,
Biden dollars.
yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
They stole Big Jolly, we get to steal her.
I
Exactly.
want the lab
I
to be
was
state
thinking
of
the
the art.
same.
Get our money's worth.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, we have a pretty full agenda here. Let's move forward. All right, second is Damian Brady, our Administrator, Office of Assigned Counsel. Mr. Brady, come on up. we have a request for the creation of one position in the Office of Assigned Counsel, Fiscal Manager, grade 15, position to be abolished upon loss of grant funding associated with the position. Legislative request number 235. Do I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
Nuda and Ben. Okay. Mr. Brady, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This position of fiscal manager is essentially to help us with primarily with the grant management. The grade 15 is necessary. We have a $23 million grant from the state. And we also manage another approximately $900,000 a year in other grant funds, which come into a combination between the Legal Aid Society and the Office of Assigned Counsel. So this position, which is grant funded, will help assist with that grant management. Currently, we're utilizing staff in the finance department to assist us with that, with the filings and the reimbursements. But as the program grows, so will the work. We spoke with New York State Office of Indigent Services, and so this is an approved expenditure in our grant program. So once that grant expires, which I don't anticipate happening anytime in the near future, this particular position will expire as well.
Right. And I spoke to you and I spoke to Commissioner Chapman that, as you have listed here, once that grant is gone, this position is gone as well.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Yes, Legislator O'Donnell.
Is this the only non-attorney position you hired so far?
Currently we have, this would be, I believe, we have a secretarial position, which we may be coming back next month to upgrade, because I'm speaking to ILS about that. That we have actually two other positions which have been hired. So I have a community coordinator who you've met, that's Cameron Marker, and Terry Blosser, who is our data officer. So we'll wind up with 4 non-attorneys in the office: data officer, community coordinator, secretary, and this fiscal manager position. And then there'll be 3 attorneys, myself, an attorney for CLE and training. That position has been approved for hiring. And then I'm bringing back 1 more position, which is for expert services. So that may be next month or the following month, all grant funded.
So this position, will they review all the attorneys' records that they submit for reimbursement?
Correct. That's one of their responsibilities, although the data officer is involved in that as well. Yes.
And I know we had a discussion a couple months ago about hiring an investigator.
Yes, that's something I'm working on. I do have a significant amount of funding. At the moment, I'm just trying to get the investigative services in a private capacity to the lawyers to get them started. But it is something I've discussed with ILS, possibly for the year 5 funding, because we have a 5-year grant and it extends thereafter. So the 5th year of the grant has an additional $1.3 million attached to it, which we split between the Legal Aid Society. So that was something I was discussing with them for the year 5 funding, maybe possible for a permanent investigator, which you and I discussed.
Not till year 5,
But we're actually we're approaching year 5 right now. And we're starting to negotiate that particular grant funding right now. So we're building out the office piece by piece, but that is something that I'm trying to put into the budget for the last year of the grant. And then that last year essentially locks in moving forward. And that's what we would be. So that this would be like the last piece of the puzzle. So I am working on that.
and I think you said you hired or you're gonna hire a private investigator from?
So essentially right now, we hire people on an as-needed basis. So they become vendors. So we have a series of vendors. So when a attorney needs a service, we approve that service, and then they provide the service, provide us a bill, and then we pay them and then seek reimbursement from the state. So that's part of our budgeting. But the goal would be to potentially to have an in-house investigator.
Right. So these vendors, they already been on our vendor list in the county, or?
Most of them,
Or you-
we approve
Because you
them.
have a grant, you don't have to abide by our county rules when you're hiring a vendor?
No, we do. Every single vendor goes through has to submit a supplier package application. But a lot of these vendors that we're utilizing currently are ones that we've been utilizing for years. So if there is a new vendor that's an attorney would like to utilize, then they provide a resume and experience, and then I review it and we would approve it. And then that person could apply to become a supplier, and then they would be added to the list of people who would be approved for county use.
Thanks. Thank you, Jim.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, so ordered. Thank you, Mr. Brady. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up, Roman numeral 3, Kelly Eskew, our county clerk. Mrs. Eskew, come on up. And we have a request to reallocate 39 positions as recommended in a comprehensive class study conducted by the Human Resource Department. Legislative request number 218. Do I have a motion and a second? Russia and Yehuda. Okay. Okay, the floor is yours, County Clerk.
Thank you. So after working closely with my staff for the past 8 years, I believe that we're not being compensated for the level of work that they're performing. The clerk's office has some of the lowest grades in the county, performing very complicated work. It's becoming more and more difficult to recruit and train qualified clerks because of what they're dealing with. So these positions were classified in 1979, 43 years ago. 79 was a great year, but the workload has changed dramatically. The nature of the positions has developed beyond the scope of the current classifications based upon the complexity of the knowledge required. In 1979, we had 5,231 mortgages reported. In 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, we had 14,898. And the documents have just changed tremendously. And I have my, I don't know if you guys got this, the letter that was attached to the request. It explains more the complexity of the documents. So based on the comprehensive class study that was conducted by the Department of Human Resources, it was recommended that 39 positions, which include vacancies, be reallocated. So that's why we're here.
Kelly, in talking with you and Commissioner Chapman, in a nutshell, that the whole scope is just changed, and some people are handling some very sensitive documents while others are not, but they're all in the same, in layman's terms, they're basically on the same pay scale or something. There's different handling of extremely important documents by some people compared to others. Is that fair to say?
These positions are competitive and unique to the clerk's office. I
Right.
think that maybe, does that explain it a little bit
Well,
better?
I would say like there's a career ladder where the things that can be done at the lower level are in the route of recording and indexing, and then it expands and goes into senior level, principal level, and then the registry office. So as you increase in your exposure to legal documents and the like, and the greater expertise that's required, those positions are classified higher. Also, those positions which are training, leading, directing, and supporting lower subordinate positions are compensated higher. So when we look at an entire class like this is, much like when we looked at 911 operators, we took the scope of everybody operating in that general route, and then we determined along that route who is higher, who is exceeding the entry level. And so when you start working with the lower level and adding more technology, more experience that's required than somebody just coming in, which is why we're introducing a traineeship level. Just the work that they're doing is so specific to the clerk's office that we feel is important to add a trainee level, give them the exposure, and then they have a career ladder to escalate as they provide years and expertise.
Makes sense. Questions or comments? Yes, Legislator O'Connell.
Need the answers now. So you gave some comparisons. You gave us a couple here in this memo, but can you give us a little more data on how many people worked back then compared to how many people work
that
now?
79, sure.
Right. And anything else that you gave human resources to look at the increase and the reasoning behind what?
I can tell you that, in 1979, a grade 5 recording and index clerk did not accept money, did not do all the things that they're doing now, deal with confidential documents, upload things to New York State. So it's just a progression of
I'm just
duties.
more, just give me the numbers.
Okay, numbers.
The numbers you got compared, 79 to now.
Okay.
I'm sure there's dramatic increases like you have told us here.
Staffing going back to 79, I probably could find the records, but more in line, I could probably give you more accurate with 89. When we did our Hague class study, it seems like the things that in 79 were on our mainframe, and I don't really have access to it. But I can look, and I probably could find you from something from 1979, and I will certainly do that. But then even going to 89, I know for sure I can give you that in terms of employee counts and as far as
That's
just,
fine.
yeah.
Good. Yep. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, does this include DMV too, or just?
No, this is just the recording side.
uh,
Those are state classification. I mean,
Right,
DMV
okay.
clerk is a DMV clerk is a DMV clerk.
The, have you got the credit card situation taken care of there?
And we do accept credit cards in DMV, and we do not accept credit cards on the recording side yet. No,
We're still not there yet.
No.
We're getting there.
it would be a big plus to us.
Because I mean, I know your office has been doing a lot more with less, and through the pandemic, and DMV too, with the undocumented immigrants. I mean, I used to go by and see the line at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just, so I certainly support this, and I don't think we've given you guys enough back as far as recompense. Just what you're doing. So, I really support it.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm just kind of surprised since 1979, just everybody's getting bumped one grade.
Well, we would love it if they would get bumped more.
I mean,
Yeah, but you haven't been paying attention to what's happening. around here.
I'm going to say 1979, they're probably grade 2, and then in 1989, they barely went to the 5. Or they were 4s and went to the 5. So they probably didn't start at 5, and I'm sure with the Hayes study, they went to the 5. But in reality, it's well overdue for sure.
Thank you for noticing.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you, ladies.
much.
Have a great afternoon. Okay, Roman numeral 4, our last item today is Catherine Benelli, Chairwoman of the Orange County Legislature. Madam Chair, come on up. We have letter A, a local law amending local law number 8 of 1972, fixing the compensation for the Commissioner of Elections as last amended by local law number 1 of 2022. And we have letter B, local law amending local law number 11 of 2018, and fixing the compensation for the Sheriff of Orange County. So let me go to letter A. Do I have a motion and a second for A? Benton and Menuda. Okay, let's go to letter A first. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you is a 4-year schedule to get the Commissioner of Elections back on track. If you recall, for the past few years, we kind of got off cycle a little bit. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with it. And the timing. This is a local law, unlike fixing other people's salaries. We need to do this by local law. And local law takes a little bit longer. It's not just a matter that it takes effect and then it has to go to Albany for approval and all of that. So we don't want to miss the windows because we've done that in the past. And that's why we've had for the last 2 years, just 1 year salary fixed. So we felt that the schedule worked, that we would put it out over 4 years. And in the first year, we are looking at an increase of 3.75. And then the following 3 years, it goes down to 2.75. Reason being is that we did take a look with the help of the Commissioner of Human Resources, Mr. Chapman, in regard to the surrounding counties. Right now, looking at Rockland, Albany, Onondaga, Putnam, Dutchess, and Orange, we are at the bottom of the list. And given our unique challenges here in Orange County and the complexity of all of the laws that we've all navigated through the past few years, we felt that there was a need to take a look at this. And actually, during budget time, we should probably be taking a careful look at the department as a whole. But here again, we're here to fix those local laws as far as the salary for the commissioners are concerned. Did play around with certain numbers, and in discussion with both the majority leader and the minority leader, I felt that this was a palatable number that we could embrace and move forward with. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions?
The 2022 salaries, how that?
It is, hold on, so 2 seconds, I do have it, 92,860. And that was a 2.5% increase over the previous year.
Okay. Do you have it for, when I ask you, when it comes to the sheriff's office in 2022?
Yeah, I'll get to,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, any more on letter A, questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, letter B, I'll say it again, local law amending local law number 11 of 2018 and fixing the compensation for the sheriff of Orange County. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Here again, this is a 4-year schedule starting in 2023. And it actually is a 2.75% increase across the board each year. All of these numbers, both the previous ones I mentioned and this one as well, is in keeping with being mindful of the contract negotiations that are going on currently. So all of this have been in consultation with the Commissioner of Human Resources. And this was a pretty cut and dry one. It's 2.75 across the board. And we're a little bit more competitive with our surrounding counties versus the way we were with the Commissioner of Elections. So I am open to any questions as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, just, I don't know. We've raised this salary quite a bit over the last few years, and I'm probably to blame more than anybody for it. It just seems like it's, you know, I don't know what the county exec salary is now. Do you have that now, or does somebody have that?
The county executive salary, I don't have that.
No, it's probably not much more than this.
In the book, it's in the back of our budget book, if you look at the chart.
It just seems like it's, we raised this quite a bit a few years ago, and the undersheriff and whole rank and file.
Twice.
Yeah, twice, and we did it with me leading the charge in a midterm timeframe. You know, unprecedented. Took a lot of heat from the Democratic caucus. I think only one person from the Democratic caucus pushed for it, and there was quite a bit of angst in the Republican caucus from 2 members who were sitting very close to me today. I'm just lukewarm about this because it's starting to get way up there. And it's just a shame that there's no correlation between attendance and salary. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so to answer your question in regard to the county executive, thank you very much. The current salary is $186,276. This was a 2.25 over the 2013 salary. Remember, we did the 4 years for elected officials. Going into 2023, the county executive salary will be $190,002 versus in 23, the 172,382.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be 20,000 or more apart. Now we're putting them right next to each other. Just a little different responsibility. I don't know. I'm in reserve. I'll vote for it today, but I don't know if I'm going to on the floor.
Go ahead.
Can you give us a list of the surrounding counties?
I can, if you want it written, I can have
No,
a
I don't
copy of
need it
this.
written.
But here, I'll
You
just
said
go
we were
down it
more
just the way.
competitive,
Okay, so
And we weren't competitive with
yeah,
the,
the elections was. But for the sheriff in Rockland, it's 201,000. as for 2022. In Dutchess, it's 141,436. In Putnam, it's 150,000 in 2019. In Albany, it's 133,536 in 2020. And in Ulster, it's 101,727 in 2022. And Onondaga is 125,265 in 2022. And then Orange was 167 for 2022.
So Rockland has a very, very active patrol unit for the sheriff's office. So that on their own, hence the large salary, plus the salaries for the chiefs of police down there are way over 200,000 as well. I'm gonna vote no on this today, and to get more information, which I don't think will be forthcoming. Just, we had a new sheriff, well, was the election in November, and to start them at 72 is a pretty good starting salary, especially compared to the surrounding counties. You know, absent Rockland, they'll be by far paid a lot more than Putnam, which is 151, 2019. Dutchess, Sullivan's less than that. Albany,
I don't have some.
yeah, I know it's less than that, so. Okay, but thanks for the information.
Is there other information you would maybe looking for?
Well,
That could be
I don't think we
provided.
get it from, till we see who the new sheriff is and.
I
what-
don't really
what
know how
they
to work
want.
that out
Right,
for you, so
exactly. Yeah.
that would be very interesting if I could.
Go ahead. Lynn.
Just a comment, I'm still hated to this day because of my previous criticisms, so, but I do expect better participation with the next sheriff, no matter who it is.
Well, that's, yeah, go ahead, Steve.
You want to say something first?
No, go ahead. You go.
No, I'm gonna vote no today too. I just thought about it a little more. I think we should probably keep the salary the same, and it shouldn't matter who the new sheriff is. This is for the position. We raised it too
Absolutely,
much in the past. I
absolutely.
think we should keep it there. And sort of what legislator Donaldson said, Rockland County and Suffolk County in New York State are two of the highest paid sheriff's offices in the state of New York. We should probably never use Rockland County as
We use
a
it because
comparison.
of geographic.
right. No, I know, we always do, Chairwoman, but it just, we probably shouldn't because it's really an anomaly. And we shouldn't use them as a basis, but, I don't think we should increase it at all. I think we raised it more than we should have over the last few years. And the position of sheriff is for the position of sheriff. It's not who the sheriff is going to be or whatever, because they're running for an office and they know what the salary is when they run for that office. So I'm gonna vote no here today as well.
And I concur with what you're saying. I mean, the only thing that I would interject at this time is that when we do look at these salaries and we're planning out for 4 years, the idea of not fixing any type of movement whatsoever comes back to haunt you a little bit, because then you see these spikes and you see it all the time, especially with local officials, town supervisors, all of a sudden are getting a 40% raise. We went through a whole cycle like that. We want to try to prevent that. So you do want to see a slight increase, maybe not to this extent. This is a proposal that's out there, but I firmly believe that there should be some type of upward movement to keep competitive.
John, I think the point.
That's just my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Having heard all of this, we are not only competitive, we knocked out Rockland County with the top.
Mhm.
So, you know, and I remember a couple of years ago when we had these discussions. So to raise this all the way, I think we need a forward momentum. I don't know if now's the time to do it. So I'm gonna be no on this.
Okay.
Pete, go ahead.
Okay, so, I mean, everybody's picked like a 2.75. So when you take 2.75 times almost $200,000, that's $2,750 per $100,000. So why don't we just pick a number out of the air, like $2,500 per year? Because I agree, everybody deserves a pay increase every year.
The
something.
position.
For the position, right, exactly. The position deserves a pay increase. So instead of giving $5,000 or $6,000 raises a year, why don't we just do a blanket 2,500, 2,500, 2,500, 2,500, and let somebody else calculate what the percentage is?
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, my point earlier was, in accordance with the position, is that we're gonna have a new person in that position.
Understand.
Right, so that was my point. And them starting at whatever the salary is now is fine with me.
Okay, so we could start at the duplicate this year salary, and then for 23, it would be this year's salary, then 24 would be plus 2,500, then 25 would be plus 2,500, and then 26 would be plus 2,500. Because you can't go lower, just because it's a new guy, you can't say, oh, we're gonna cut your salary by,
I could go for that, Lee, that's more palatable than what's
Yeah.
there today, so.
So what's the current salary, Kate, Ms. Chairman Vanel?
Hold on a second.
Let's go to rules too.
It's going to,
Rules, it would go to rules.
yes, it's going to rules. Yes. It's right on the legislative request, which I don't have in front of me. So, yes, it's going somewhere else. 167,769.
Okay, 167,769, so
Correct.
2023 would be 167,769, and then
Why
we
don't
do,
you round that up
yeah,
For 4
to
years.
170?
So it's going to go
168,
178 at the end of that.
no,
Whatever you
168.
make it now, you round up it. 2,300 to get to 170. And you do the 2,500, makes it a lot easier.
Okay. So we start out at 2022, or 2023 as 170. And then you do plus 2,500, plus 2,500, plus 2,500.
Give it an extra year.
Well, you started adding it up to 170.
Whatever the salary is now.
Let him read it, would you?
167, 730, is that what you said?
769.
167, 769. So I was
And
gonna
I think
bump
what
that
you
to
said, you were gonna
168.
start them at that.
Yes, but I was only bumping to 168.
So one
That gives them
sixty-seven,
nothing. I mean, you're not giving them the.
no, so that's what he's gonna take the job and start at. That's that.
So there's no increase.
No
in
increase to
20
start.
Not for 23,
And then 24,
23 rather.
24,
plus
go up to
2,500.
170. It's
So
gonna
that's
be a
only-
little less than 2,500, not much.
That's only 2,000.
I would just do the
2,000,
2,500, nothing else is even numbers. Just do the 2,500 like you said. I mean, nothing else is even numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my proposal.
That's because they're done on percentages. That's why they're not.
This is my proposal.
Year one
The
is
168 for 2023, and then plus 2,500 for 2024, then plus 2,500 for 2025, and plus 2,500 for 2026.
okay. So year one is what the existing number.
Yeah.
Year two is plus 2,500. Year three plus 25, and year four plus 25.
Right. And we're rounding up the first year to
All right. You
168.
making a motion to that?
Yes.
Sorry.
A second by legislator Brescia. Any comments on that further? Discussion? Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. In comparing these, what I would like to see if this goes to another committee, which it will. I'd like to see the number of souls that this person oversees. So that, when we start
I'm sorry,
comparing
say that again.
the number of souls that this person oversees, the population that they're
We'd only be
responsible
able to
for,
give you obviously the existing.
and the geography. Because when you're looking at these different counties, you have different populations, different number of people, and different geography. We are a very large county, so I think those are all big factors into the oversight and responsibilities.
Okay.
With that said, we'll vote yes for this.
All in favor of legislator Benton's proposal? Anyone opposed? Okay. All right, now it's a great discussion. I mean, as it's been said, candidates know what the salary is, what they're running for. Legislator Brescia mentioned it twice. We know we raised that at the request of the current sheriff. To be honest, final average salary, bump it up so they can kind of finish out their careers. So maybe we're a little bit too generous at that point, but this is still a good salary. Joe, your points are good, but the chair had done, Commissioner Chapman, kind of a canvas of neighboring counties. So, I mean, it's good salary. We're still the fastest growing county, I believe, in New York State. So I think it's a sound proposal, so. Good, everybody good? All right.
Rob, was there an initial motion?
No, you know what? Thank you, Kelly. It was not. So let me go back. I did not have a motion and a second on letter B to the local law to amend local law number 11, Benton
Second.
and Menuda, okay? And we had a motion and second on legislator Benton's proposal, correct, Kelly?
Yes, we did.
And we had unanimous on that, right? Good, on the amendment, yes, okay. That concludes our agenda. I need a motion to,
Thank you all very much.
thank you. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, next legislative meeting. Ian,
I'll go out there. No,